It is a shared responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us as one ummah. So we have to feel for each other, and we have to love for each other what we love for ourselves. And before we start, we would like to welcome Prof. Abdul Aziz Barghouth, the Dean of STAC, that he managed to be with us tonight, inshallah. And we also thank all the brothers and sisters, particularly Prof. Farida, the moderator, and by my previous boss as well. She is very keen, and she has a very soft heart toward all Muslims' issues and concerns. May Allah reward her for participating in this webinar. Extend my thanks as well to all speakers. Without any exceptional comment, just saying may Allah reward them, bless them, and help them to participate and enlighten us. Particularly here in Malaysia, Dr. Ahmed Azam from the Global Peace Mission, who are co-organizing this webinar with IMO, the International Institute for Muslim Unity, and their NGO is a leading NGO, and they were the first to fly to Afghanistan to study the needs of the Muslim over there. They have traveled from the beginning, and they have gone everywhere in Afghanistan. And alhamdulillah, they started delivering and also mounting a lot of media campaign to motivate Muslims to participate in helping their brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. We decided to talk about Afghanistan, particularly how can we mobilize the potentials of Muslims in the three sectors: at the level of the states, at the level of the private sector, and at the level of non-government organizations. All of them could help and support the needy in Afghanistan. Particularly when we see the displacement, the hunger, the thirst, and all different needs the Afghani people are in need of. In this tonight webinar, we would like to draw the attention of all Muslim world and countries, in addition to their own organizations like OIC and others, to live up to their own responsibility and shoulder this responsibility towards their brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. Without any further delay, I would like to invite Prof. Abdul Aziz Barghouth, the Dean of STAC, to deliver his opening remarks in this webinar. Please, Prof, the mic is yours. May Allah reward you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. First of all, let me welcome all our invited speakers to this very important webinar. Dr. Ahmed Azam Abdul Rahman, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Naqib, Brother Nasir Ahmed, Brother Abdul Hai, Kanit, Khadija, and our brother Ijazul Haq. Let me also welcome Prof. Farida, the moderator of tonight's program. Also, I'm very glad to see IMU organizing this very important event. And I wish and hope that we continue this drive talking about the unity of the Ummah from different perspectives. In fact, Afghanistan deserves a lot from the Muslim Ummah. I'm talking about the Islamic world. I'm talking about the OIC countries. If we want to talk about the socio-political organization of the Ummah nowadays, I think Afghanistan is one of the Muslim countries, and it was the center of conflict, center of attraction of many big powers in the world. I think since long time ago, all of you will recall in the recent times and the recent history, the Russian and also after that the Americans and the rest. So this place is a strategic place because of its history, because of its what it has of resources and potentials. And also the strategic location of Afghanistan made it a place where there is like international interest in the area. I don't want to enter into the socio-political and economic context or analysis of the situation, but what I wanted to say from the IMU, International Institute of Muslim Unity perspective, we want to see how the Islamic Ummah, how the Muslim countries can lend hand to Afghanistan and look at it. Yeah, there are many perspectives how you look at what's happening in Afghanistan, but we are taking the approach of the civilizational approach, the approach of unity and brotherhood, the approach of the Ummah, the approach where we try our best to see what can be given to this country, to these people, so that they can build their society, their economy, their life, their country, and they become more dynamic and more effective as one of the members of the Ummah, inshallah. So brothers and sisters, the presence of Dato Ahmed Azam with us here is very important, adding value and the perspective to what we wanted to discuss today, as he has a very long time in this work, and as an NGO also today talking about global peace, I think, and I think I heard that he is now in the borderline doing his social responsibility jihad and doing his, I think that's great. Also the presence of Prof. Naki from the Kuliya of Law, our professor, and also the representative of the embassy and our students, sisters and brothers. This has a meaning in this. When we talk about the unity of the Ummah and what is our role towards Afghanistan, what we want to say from this webinar, I think that Afghanistan needs to be built by its people, and with the shelter from this Ummah. So it will be very important today to see what can be done at all levels. I remember and recall that Malaysia, as an example, we have been here for quite some time. We saw the approach of Malaysia in helping the Islamic Ummah, especially those countries which are facing problems. You remember in the case of Bosnia, how Malaysia helped and created human capital and educated people, and most of those people whom were educated here, they become ambassadors, leaders, business people, leaders of banks, and even for Afghanistan, alhamdulillah, I think in the last 7 years, even example of our university, during our time, we managed to get over 150 to 170 Afghan students studied in IUM and some of them graduated, and some of them are now with PhD and doing many other things. This is the role that we wanted to emphasize and enhance, so that we offer whatever thing that we can to Afghanistan. And I think the way of, even though it's very complicated situation, very complicated society with many races, many cultures, multi and so on and so forth, but I think education can offer them a lot to create the human capital that can build this Muslim nation. With this, I once again welcome you all and pray that our webinar will be very fruitful and helpful to all of us and others later on who will listen to it to benefit from it, inshallah. With this, thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Prof. Abdul Aziz. And now we have to leave the floor to Prof. Farida. Prof. Farida is a professor of English literature, and she is one of the leading specialists in the Islamization of English literature. And she was the Deputy Director for Internationalization and Global Network. And I have the honor to work with her for some time. Please, Prof. Farida, the mic is yours, and I hope that Allah will bless your efforts in moderating this seminar.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Dawood. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, colleagues, Dato' Ahmad, Prof. Aziz, and fellow speakers. I think what I'll do now is to do a rundown of how the webinar is going to be run. I will introduce all speakers. Unfortunately, the other speakers are still not able to come in. So we will start with whoever we have. Each of you will be given 15 minutes to speak on an assigned topic that we have previously discussed. I will first introduce the background of speakers who are already here. We'll start with Dr. Ahmad Azam Abdul Rahman. Yeah, he is a man of many hats, a well-known figure in the social activism among the NGOs in Malaysia and abroad. Yeah, recently he was elected as Independent Permanent Human Rights Commissioner of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and starting 2019 to 2022. So congratulations, Dato'. Dato' is also the chairman of Global Peace Mission Malaysia, which he founded in 2001, a humanitarian cross-border organization that is sending missions to many parts of the world, and they have just returned from assessing the situation in Afghanistan. We'll hear more of that later. So I think, Dato' is a man of many experience. So we are honored to have him here with us. And the second speaker is Professor Muhammad Naki, also a very renowned person, not only in IUM, he is trained in many types of law, from contract law, jurisprudence, tort law, and later on, he's into human rights law, international humanitarian law. He does international dispute resolution, international arbitration, international criminal law, international refugee law, migration, cooperation, social responsibility, mediation. Looks like, you might be the candidate for the next Afghanistan president or prime minister. We hope you make it. So, and we have the assistant consular at Afghan embassy, Mr. Nasir Ahmad Yusof. He completed his undergraduate studies at Tehran University and did his master's studies in Sharia law at USIM and his LLM at IIUM. Currently, he's doing his PhD in the final stage at IIUM. Welcome. And the other two speakers are not here yet. Azazul Haq Jamil, who is the president of ISC, the International Student Club. So I hope he'll be able to come in to give his perspective and opinion as student leader. And we've got Abdul Hai Khani, master student in IUM, also an Afghan political analyst interested in Afghanistan. So he's not here yet, also trying to get in. And we've got Sister Khadija. Sister Khadija is a postgraduate in Arabic literature. She's doing her master, but she was also a lecturer at Bamiyan University. So we would like to hear her views, especially on the role of women in nation building later on. So without much further ado, I think we'll start with Professor Naki to explain to us some brief background on the history and, you know, the kind of crisis that leads to the current crisis. So 15 minutes, Prof.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Farida. Thank you so much for the beautiful words as well. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Fellow panelists, distinguished audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very good evening to you all. Let me say at the outset that I am neither a historian nor a politician. As a citizen, I am concerned about the unfolding security and humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, which are largely the legacy of previous failed governments. The current Taliban-led regime must learn from the mistakes of previous governments, win the hearts of the people, avoid corruption, discrimination, and uphold the rule of law and justice so that Afghanistan can once again be a respected nation in the family of the United Nations. For this reason, I will briefly look at the turbulent history of Afghanistan and its successive governments with special emphasis on the Taliban. Let me begin the discussion with Afghanistan because Afghanistan is larger than any political group in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a landlocked country with a multi-ethnic and multi-lingual society. It is located in the heart of South Central Asia and bordering 6 countries. It is larger than France. It covers an area of 250,000 square miles or 647,500 square kilometers. Its population is estimated around 40 million people. Because of its untapped natural resources, Afghanistan is described as a rich but without cash country. Neither we, the Afghans, were able to explore and exploit our natural resources to develop the country, nor we allowed others to do it for us. What a loss. Afghanistan's rich natural resources, estimated to be between $1 to $3 trillion, and its geopolitical and geoeconomic importance have attracted the attention of neighbors and some other regional and international powers. Unfortunately, some of these powers have used Afghanistan as a platform for proxy wars against each other, which has brought nothing but sorrow, insecurity, loss of economic opportunities, and displacement to the citizen of Afghanistan. The successful return of the Taliban to power is the result of such wars. Yes, the Taliban succeeded militarily, although some believe that this is not the case and the Taliban succeeded due to the political defeat of the previous government. In any case, military success is one thing, but gaining trust, national and international legitimacy, and ruling the country with justice and reasonableness is quite another. History shows that in the past, others tried to seize control of Afghanistan by force, but failed to rule the country because they acted contrary to certain norms and values which Islam, humanity, and international law cherishes. Alexander the Great, Prof. Farida mentioned earlier, Alexander the Great with his strong armed forces attempted to occupy Afghanistan but failed and could not resist the Afghan warriors. Shortly after departing the country, he said, and I quote, "May God keep you away from the venom of the cobra, the teeth of the tiger, and the revenge of the Afghans." Afghanistan resisted and survived the destructive force of Genghis Khan. Great Britain had no choice but to accept her defeat in the three Anglo-Afghan wars. The former Soviet Union attempted to conquer Afghanistan but failed. Not only failed, but was disintegrated into pieces. 15 countries emerged out of it. And today we don't even have a country by the name of USSR. Following September 11, 2001 incident, US declared the so-called war on terrorism, and along its allies, including NATO, invaded Afghanistan. This invasion brought the invaders few or no tangible result. They did kill the leader of Al-Qaeda, not in Afghanistan, but in Pakistan. US spent about $1 trillion or more in its 20-year war in Afghanistan, and yet it disgracefully retreated, as we witnessed on TV channels and social media. Some say Afghanistan is a graveyard of empires. This is true, but the successive government of this country, due to lack of national or international legitimacy, widespread corruption, incoherence and incompetence, turned Afghanistan into a place of suffering for its citizens and a ground for proxy wars. We have experienced different types of governments, monarchy, but often royal families turned against each other. Our last king, Muhammad Zahir Shah, who reigned from 8 November 1933 until 17 July 1973, was deposed by his own cousin and former Prime Minister Muhammad Dawood Khan. And later, President Dawood's government was overthrown, and he, along his entire family members, were murdered in a coup led by pro-communist rebels. The communist rebels then formed their own regime, which was too extremist that it wanted to implement communism within few months, which the former Soviet Union failed to do in over 70 years. The Soviet-backed communist government was later overthrown and was succeeded by the Mujahideen government, who unsuccessfully ruled Afghanistan from 1989 to 1996. The Mujahideen also failed to run the country well and were overthrown by the Taliban in 1996 due to lack of unity among leaders and the ensuing bloody civil war among the Mujahideen. Now, the Taliban emerged in northern Pakistan in the early 1990s after the withdrawal of Soviet Union forces. It is believed that they first appeared in madrasas and are supported by the intelligence services of some countries in the region. Tired of the Mujahideen civil war, the Taliban wanted to restore peace and security in Afghanistan and implement Sharia, of course, their own version of Sharia. Eventually, they succeeded the Mujahideen government, which was Islamic itself. Of course, the Mujahideen government was also an Islamic government, and replaced it with their own government called Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. The 1996 Taliban government was known for its draconian policies, mistreatment of women, and its international isolation. It was overthrown in 2001 following September 11 incident and was replaced by US NATO-backed Islamic Republic, which corruptly mismanaged the country and was overthrown just less than 2 months ago by the Taliban of 2021. Now, most of these governments lacked legitimacy. Some of them were imposed on the Afghan nation without regard to the will of the people. And because of this, they failed successively, one after another. Most of them deposed within a short period of time. Now, the Taliban government must learn from its past and that of other failed governments. Sadly, it seems they have not learned a lesson, and that is the reason why they are suffering from national and international trust deficiency. International trust will not be forthcoming until they gain national trust. Without earning national trust, their government won't be legitimate, both nationally and internationally. Legitimacy means the right to rule a country. This right is granted by the free will of those who are ruled, that is the people. And it is normally granted through the process of a free and fair election, a process which is recognized under the current constitution of Afghanistan. It is unclear whether the Taliban will respect the Afghan constitution or hold election to form their next government. What is clear is that they promised to form an inclusive government, but contrary to their promise, they formed a caretaker government that is not really inclusive. It seems at the time of forming their government, the Taliban forgot about the people of Afghanistan. In fact, it is a government of Taliban, by the Taliban, and for the Taliban. I'm sad to say that. However, the Taliban tried to justify their action by saying that it is only a temporary government and will soon be replaced by a permanent and inclusive government. I hope they keep their promise, but experience shows something else. The Taliban made a similar promise in 1996 when they got power for the first time, but their interim government ruled the country for more than 5 years without forming a broad-based government that represents every section of the society, or honoring women's right to work and the girls' right to education. Legitimacy has to be earned. This is true for both national and international legitimacy. The Taliban must win the trust of the people, form an acceptable government, respect the human dignity of every individual, irrespective of gender, protect the fundamental rights of the citizens as enshrined in the constitution of the country, and also respect the international treaties to which Afghanistan is a party. I see no reason why the Taliban should not follow Afghanistan's constitution that considers Islam as the official religion of the country and the Sharia as the supreme law of the land. In my opinion, holding general election for the formation of government is not inconsistent with the Sharia, as it can be justified on the basis of the institution of shura or consultation in Islam. Before returning to power, some people thought the Taliban had changed and were no longer the 1996 Taliban. But
excuse me, you have 1 minute left.
Just another 4 or 5 minutes, Prof. If I can get that.
We have many.
Okay, sure. But the Taliban's action proved them wrong. There is little or no difference between the 1996 Taliban and the 2021 Taliban. However, Afghanistan of 1996 and Afghanistan of 2021 is not the same, as the latter has progressed in terms of education, infrastructure, and economy. The Islamic world also progressed. In 1996, women were not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, but now they are allowed to do so. In 1996, only 3 countries recognized the Taliban regime, but in 2021, no country, Muslim or non-Muslim, has recognized the Taliban regime. Even their friends, Pakistan, Qatar, China, and Russia, waiting for the Taliban to form an acceptable, inclusive government before they recognize it. Now, should the Taliban form a broad-based government that respect the rule of law and protect the fundamental rights of its citizens, it should be recognized as the legitimate government, for otherwise getting international legitimacy would be a difficult task. The Taliban must win the hearts and minds of the people with their actions and not with their words, because without the people's support, they will not be able to succeed nationally or internationally. Excessive reliance on foreign support was a major factor in the failure of the previous government. The Taliban appears to have made the same mistake. They have made the same mistake. They rely too much on the empty promises of countries in the region, such as Pakistan, Qatar, Russia, and China. China's intervention in African countries has not helped eradicate poverty in those countries. And I do not think it can eradicate poverty in Afghanistan. So the Taliban should take their homework seriously, and like the previous government, should not dig their own graves with their own hands. They should not provoke the anger of the people against them. The country is currently in absolute international isolation. There are no services. Women are not allowed to work. High school girls cannot go to school. People cannot even have access to their money in the banks. Young professionals are leaving the country. Unemployment screams. Nearly 80% of the people live in utter poverty. The Taliban must act responsibly in the face of these disasters. Otherwise, they will ruin themselves and the country and may face serious security and economic problems. If the Taliban really want to rule Afghanistan, they must first gain national trust, interact with the world with mutual respect, honor the rights of citizens, create jobs for all without gender discrimination, and allow this country to be at peace with itself and the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I think, Prof. Naki, you have put us on a very strong, sound ground, giving the background and covering much of the reality today. But I would like to hand over to Dato, who is, his team has just returned from Afghanistan to talk about the realities on the ground and what are some of the stuff that we can follow out of the findings. Silakan, Dato.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajma'in. Professor Faridah, the moderator, Professor Abdul Aziz Bargud, Dean of ISTAC, Professor Dawood, Director of IMU, fellow speakers, panelists, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is 4 o'clock in Gaziantep. Tomorrow I'm entering Syria to officiate a mosque that is being built by Malaysia for Syria, an NGO under Global Peace Mission. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate IIU and IMU and other organizations for organizing this program, which I think is very important, and we need to listen to the Afghans themselves about what is their aspiration for the country that they belong to. I would like to what we call share the response of Malaysia to Afghanistan. Mind you that the Afghanistan government, the new government, is only 2 months and 3 days today. Because Taliban has been fighting the US and NATO occupation for the past 20 years, and they are in power for 2 months and 3 days to be exact, from 15th August to 15th October. So the response from the Malaysian government is quite unique and pioneering indeed, because the first thing that we want to do is to engage with the new government. We believe that the new government, it has to be a government that Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, and Afghan-initiated. Let them decide for themselves, but give them time to what we call to be able to see what is good for themselves. So while waiting for that, we are not going to wait and see attitude. Let us engage with them. This is our attitude. So on the 26th of September, when we organized a KL conference on Afghanistan, the foreign minister, what we call, appointed me as the special advisor on Afghanistan. This is a surprise to me. I was not consulted at all, but it is an indication that Malaysia is going to introduce a new form of diplomacy. We call it the humanitarian diplomacy. What do you mean by humanitarian diplomacy? That means we are going to encourage more NGOs, more humanitarian organizations to enter Afghanistan, to deal whatever problem that they are facing in this few months, especially coming winter. We are opening the door. We are trying to facilitate more NGOs coming into Afghanistan and bringing whatever is necessary to assist them to cope with the coming winter. So the approach of humanitarian diplomacy is focusing on people-to-people initiative, is focusing on encouraging NGOs from all over the world to come into Afghanistan and trying to engage with them, with the hope that by this engagement, we are going to open the mind and whatever the issues that have been raised by Professor Naki will be dealt with in a manner that a positive and good faith attitude that we are there. So Alhamdulillah, since September 24th, we are able to enter Kabul. Till now, the team is still working in Afghanistan, and for the past 3 weeks, we have been delivering foods, medical related items, providing emergency relief among the Afghanistan. And at the same time, we are also engaging with all leaders in Afghanistan. We have met 2 ministers, Alhamdulillah, the acting foreign minister, Malawi Amir Khan Muttaqi, and we have met also the Minister of Trade and Commerce. And we have met last 2 days, Dr. Abdullah, and we have met Engineer Gulbuddin Hikmatia, just to explain our position that this is a humanitarian project. Malaysia has not recognized the Afghanistan government yet, but we are proactive. We are sending our people to assist the government in facing whatever you needed in these few months coming, what we call the winter months. And we have yet to see Hamid Karzai. At the matter of time, inshallah, we will be able to see and get their views about what is happening on the ground. So, brothers and sisters, we must not leave Afghanistan. We must not have a wait and see attitude and let them think for themselves. We must engage them with them, and we must talk to them, and we must what we can provide whatever is needed right now. And I think over time, more and more countries are beginning to send relief, what we call humanitarian relief into Afghanistan. And I think the next stage will be recognizing, whether to recognize or not will depend on the reception of this humanitarian diplomacy that we are what we call engaging right now. So I think if this approach is going to be successful, then I think this will be a trend whereby Malaysia has been sending a lot of NGOs to all of crisis areas in Palestine, also in Kashmir, in Bosnia, and whatnot. But this time the government is interested to coordinate and work together with the NGOs in this concept of humanitarian diplomacy that we thought would be the best mechanism in assisting Muslims from all over the world. So I wish all of you success. I couldn't stay with you long. I'm preparing to enter Syria in a short while, and inshallah, I hope all those speakers will be able to engage with me, write the feedback. If I fail, I will say that you have failed me in what we call implementing this project and getting Malaysians to be heavily involved in Afghanistan. And we are successful in Afghanistan, then we can go for other country with the same format. And this time, with the support of the intellectuals in IIU in particular, I think it will complete the vision that we want, the input from the intellectuals, the NGOs, and the government, and the stakeholders. I think with this combination, we will be able to succeed and what we call and assist the Muslims from all over the world. Thank you, Dr. Farida. Thank you, Dr. Aziz Barhoud. Thank you, what we call Dr. Dawood, and all of you. And I'll be ready when I come back from Qatar, inshallah. We will sit down and see what we can do to assist Afghanistan. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dato', and all the best to your Syrian mission. All right.
Inshallah. Thank you.
I think, yes, that will give us some follow-up later on after the webinar. He has opened the door saying that there will be another meeting to see how we can implement some of our findings at this webinar. So may I invite the next speaker, Mr. Nasir Ahmad Syed Yusof, the Assistant Counselor of Afghan Embassy, to talk about some of the challenges or perhaps opportunities of the current government, caretaker government. Please welcome him.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Can you hear me, Prof. Farida?
I think you need to speak louder.
Okay.
Your mic, yeah, it's not so clear.
Okay, inshallah. It is very gratifying for me to be in a part of this panel. Allow me to pay my tribute to all the officials and respected professors of this garden of knowledge and virtue, especially in the presence of our esteemed professor and my supervisor, Professor Dr. Muhammad Naki Bishanjan. As you know, a new regime has come to power in Afghanistan for various political and social reasons. It is natural that every regime has its own opponents and supporters. The type of regime is not important to us here. What is most important is the situation of the Muslim people of Afghanistan as a part of the Islamic war, which is the only country that has 99% Muslims. And what is the role of the Islamic Umma towards the people of Afghanistan? In Afghanistan, a 2-decade political system suddenly collapsed, and a new system came into power, and with it came problems and challenges. We have a duty to specify the challenges and advise to officials to find a solution. And we expect the Islamic Ummah, especially the Islamic countries, to not turn their backs to Afghanistan in these critical and difficult periods, and that participate in forming of a government in order to create prosperity and security for the people of Afghanistan. Dear brothers and sisters, as you know, following the rapid advance of the Taliban and the fall of the country's provinces, Ashraf Ghani fled Afghanistan, which simultaneously led Taliban forces into the capital, Kabul, on August 15. But the bigger question is on the mind of analysts is regarding the challenges that the Taliban government faces, and will they be able to overcome these challenges? First of all, including government. Afghanistan consists of various ethnic groups such as Pashtuns, Tajik, Hazaras, Uzbeks, Turkmen, and Gashalbas, and Arab, and other ethnic. Based on some reports, 60 ethnic groups are stated to be living in Afghanistan. Therefore, every government in Afghanistan must represent this ethnic diversity. Forming a single ethnic-based government in a country like Afghanistan, where no ethnic group constitutes a majority, will surely soon have problems. Taliban officials such as Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar and the group's spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid have stated that the Taliban are seeking to form an inclusive government comprising all Afghan ethnic groups and tribes. Zabiullah announced the names of 33 members of the new Taliban government on September 7th, and subsequently 2 weeks later on September 21st, Taliban expanded the government with 17 more ministers, this time with several non-Pashtun ethnic groups, but still without any female ministers. Second, terrorism challenges. Areas outside the control of the government are the best areas for terrorist groups to be present in a situation where one group or government cannot expand its dominance over the whole country. Afghanistan geography, along with a bankrupt government in recent years, has provided the perfect environment for terrorist groups such as Daesh and Al-Qaeda in the country. The Taliban have pledged that Afghanistan will not become a base for any terrorist groups. The Taliban is forced to fight the Daesh and Al-Qaeda. This is in order to bring complete control over the country and for their government to gain legitimacy from the international community. However, it seems in the current situation, the fledgling Taliban government does not have all the resources to do so. Domestic and international legitimacy. The Taliban are well aware that the group's internal legitimacy depends on a change in its past rigid view of Afghanistan society. A majority of Afghanistan's educated and middle-class citizens do not have faith in the Taliban. For this reason, the Taliban have a long way to go to gain public trust and satisfy the majority of Afghan society. The Taliban clearly understand they cannot expect the support of all the ethnic groups. If people perceive the Pashtun, only Pashtun ethnic groups trying to dominate other ethnic groups in the country. On the other hand, the recognition of this group by the international community also subject to the formation of an inclusive government. And many governments, including the European Union, have explicitly stated that they only accept a government in Afghanistan that represents the whole of Afghan society. Another problem facing the Taliban is the country's internal and external administration. Unfortunately, Taliban forces have little knowledge about complex administrative and organizational matters other than fighting in the mountains and valleys. With this level of literacy and training of its leaders, commanders, and field forces, the Taliban surely faces difficulties to run the country and provide a good model of governance to the world. Economic problems. Dear brothers and sisters, the most important and urgent challenge to the Taliban today is economic problems. The Taliban need vast financial resources to increase the value of the national currency, reduce inflation, fund government departments, fight the COVID-19 pandemic, hunger, provide public goods, and at the same time meet military and security challenges. After the fall of the Taliban in 2001, a lot of foreign aids were given to the country for reconstruction, but due to the severe financial corruption of the government, many of these aids were not spent in the right and appropriate places. More than 10 billion US dollars of Central Bank of Afghanistan assets are outside the country, which for the West is a level of pressure on the Taliban. The US Treasury Department has also said it will not reduce sanctions against the Taliban or allow the group to gain access to the global financial system. Last but not least, Taliban claim that they following Islam and are establishing an Islamic emirate. In Islam, the education of women and men is encouraged and is even an obligation imposed upon every Muslim and Muslimah. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. In a recent announcement by the Taliban, they allowed primary school up to 6th grade to be opened for girls. Based on the Taliban announcement, it's expected that high schools and universities are to be opened for the girls and women in Afghanistan soon, inshallah. According to the World Bank collection of development indicators, women population in Afghanistan is reported to be about 48% in 2020. Taliban should consider that the educated and professional women in Afghanistan can contribute to the nation to face these challenges times. They should utilize these talents to lead the country into salvation rather than ignoring or limiting their activities. To conclude, the fledgling Taliban government faces wide-ranging challenges in political, economic, security, and social fields. It can be denied, and the Taliban is also aware that this government is facing problems to gain public trust and global legitimacy. On the other hand, the Taliban urgently needs financial resources to overcome the important economic challenges of Afghanistan and prevent the collapse of the country's economy, an issue that cannot be achieved without recognition by the international community. We must be patient. The future of the Taliban government depends on how good they will address all these challenges. Thank you very much for all of you.
Thank you, Brother Nasir, for keeping true to time and that hopeful note that, you know, it takes time and patience. But let us move on to a young person, Abdul Hai Khanit, to give his opinion. He's a postgraduate student of political science on what he sees as what is needed to be done, you know, from his perspective. What are the roles of Afghanistan at home and abroad to help rebuild or to help stabilize the country? Please welcome Abdul Hai Khanit.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, dear professor, and all professors, all participants, and my fellow panelists, everyone. And thank you, IIUM, and all for this very important event today. I think it's very important and a good time to have this kind of discussion on what's going on in Afghanistan. As I'm near to the ground and I'm following the events from 4 or 5 years, being analyzing these events on Afghan national televisions and abroad on international media, I have been in touch to the Afghan society, and I have been in touch to the history of Afghanistan in the same time to the media. I will just have a few words about what Afghans should do to stabilize the country. But before this question, I think there are two things we should understand. That one thing is that what Afghans need this time, and what are the choices that Afghans have for their future now. Afghan needs two things in this very dire situation in their country. One thing is peace, and another thing is their economy. And peace, to an extent, I will argue that it is back to Afghanistan with some challenges, which are actually inherited to the new government from the previous regime, namely the terrorist organization being in Afghanistan. And I think that whatever terrorist organization is active in Afghanistan will not take much time, because it has no place in Afghanistan ideologically, physically, and also from other perspectives. So this is one thing that Afghans are welcoming it, that they have relative peace relatively to the previous governments from in the Republic from 2001 to 2021 and the governments before. Second thing that the Afghans need is their economy, on which the government is needed to work on it, and many of the speakers talked about that. Choices, what choices does the Afghans have now this time? I think there are two choices only. One choice is to accept the reality, accept the new government is a legitimate government of the country, And the second choice that the Afghans have is to wage another civil war against the government and push the country into another disaster. I think no one will think that the second choice is a wise choice for Afghans being in trouble for 40 years. A lot of people in these recent days have asked the people of Afghanistan to rebel against the new government, but we saw no one coming out to rebel against the government because of one simple reason, that the people of Afghanistan are tired of the war and conflicts in their country. And now they want stability and they want a relative peace, which somehow this government can ensure to the country and to the people of Afghanistan. Now I'll come to what Afghans can do to stabilize their country. So my discussion will be more on the internal Afghan society. In Afghanistan, I think I'll put forward just 4 points which are very important for Afghans to keep them in mind and deal with the new reality in that way. First thing is the unity of Afghans. No government in the world can be a successful government unless there is unity within their people. I see many people in the Afghan media and the Afghan society, they are seeing the current conflict is an ethno-conflict. They're seeing that is if one ethnic sector has got over the other ethnic groups in Afghanistan. But the conflict doesn't seem to be like this. This was the conflict between a government which has fled the country on 15th of October and against the occupation of Americans and their allied forces in Afghanistan. And at the end of the day, the Taliban with their organization, whether the organization itself is inclusive or not, which I think is much inclusive inside the Taliban organization. There are Tajiks, Uzbeks, Pashtuns, and everyone in their organization. So first thing that we should not see, the Afghans should not see the current conflict and the current government and the current issues that has the government is formed as an ethnic problem. It shouldn't be perceived as if one ethnic group has took over other ethnic groups. And this is one of the tactics of some politicians who are living abroad to fire these things inside the Afghan society and let not Afghans become a united nation in their country. Second thing, which is very important, and I was noting this point in this conference as well, that the new government, everyone is expecting the new government to give whatever is there in the world in a prosperous country within 2 months only. I think the people of Afghanistan should give some time to the new government. We saw that 15th of October, everything was completely opposite what is going on today. We didn't see the universities were completely closed, the banks were closed, and there was no educational and health institute which was open on the face of people. But what happened that we see after 2 months, those who have studied the transition of governments, maybe the big example of this in the history is the Iranian revolution in 1979. In the revolution of Chinese communists in 1949, those who have studied this revolution, they understand that how the transition are affecting the society. I think this is a big transition. It is not a change of a government to another government. It is not done through a process, a peace process. It is not done through a democratic process as well, whether one party has won elections over another party. This is a fall of the state, not the government. The whole state has fallen. The president and the leader of the state, along with its allies and its people, have flicked the country, and the institutions were completely halted. There was nothing in the country. So whatever is happening in Afghanistan, we should keep this in mind, that everything is starting from the 0 point. And then we should see everything relatively, whether things are moving or not. And I think when one is looking at the educational process going on, the universities has opened, The banks is open to an extent, and Taliban are saying again and again that there are 5 provinces now that girls can go to their schools. And now today, one of their spokesperson was saying that in their time, in their future, they will permit all these girls to go to their schools. I have my sisters in Afghanistan who's doing bachelors in their private universities. They are going to universities. They are having their final exams these days. So private institutes are open, and there are some issues in the public institutes where there was no segregation in some universities and some other things are there. So when Taliban are calling themselves and having legitimacy of an Islamic system, and this is their belief that they should segregate the girls and boys in their schools. And I think for the sake of time and for the sake of benefit of our people and stability in the country, I think these are the things that we should accept for the time being. Third thing is that we should hold the Taliban's government accountable. We should push them for social reforms. We know a lot of our distinguished professors are there, that we all know that the reform process is a long process. It doesn't happen in 2 months, in 1 year. We see the Iran of 1979 and we see the Iran of 2021. We see the China of 1949 in the time of Mao Zedong. And then we have Deng Xiaoping, and we have the China of 2021, which is rising as a superpower in the world. And there are many countries where if reforms are studied, reforms are not a process which can happen overnight. It takes time, and we should give the government time to reform with the passage of time. But one thing we should keep in mind, that the Afghan people should keep them accountable and always push them toward the positive social reforms. And fourth, and the last point I want to make that Afghans can do is that Afghans in the country and outside the country should use each platform to lobby for the betterment of the Afghan people. This platform is one of those platforms which I am talking about. So Afghans abroad and Afghans inside the country, they are bound to use all these platforms to lobby not for a specific government or a specific political party or a specific side. They should try their best to lobby for the people of Afghanistan, for the well-being of it, and they should try in a way that help us get rid of this economic and security situation and conflict in Afghanistan. I will end it here, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. That's very wise, very hopeful, very promising that, it's going to be a long way, but, strategically with all good planning and management, inshallah, Afghanistan will arrive. Now, the next speaker will be Sister Khadija, who will speak on the role of women in nation building.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, professors. And I want to share some slides. Can?
Yeah.
Because some pictures transferred in. Yeah, then yeah. Can you see?
Yes.
The slides coming or not?
Can see.
Can see, yeah? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. By permission of all participants and professors, I want some sharing about Afghan women. As a Afghan citizen, as a Afghan woman, I want to talk today, but I'm not political people. I'm not talking about political things in all situation in Afghanistan. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Women in Afghanistan. That Afghan women in history. Afghan women have worked alongside men throughout history. Afghan women are brave and hardworking. We had the mothers of emperors like Shah Jahan's mother, who ruled in Middle East in India, and then he buried in Agra, and the Taj Mahal became so famous in India. And Hashad became one queen of Afghan, and mother of the Maulana Jalaluddin Balkhi Rumi, and mother of Ibn Sina, and mother of Sayyid Jalaluddin Afghan. And women, we have a lot of famous women like Rabia Balkhi, like Makhfi Badakhshi, like Malika Suraya, or another woman. But Afghanistan has a long history in the yes, Afghan men, actually Afghan men, all Afghan culture, always been a supporter of Afghan women. And this picture showing Afghan's women last 100 years, the golden period of Afghan history in the 100 last years. And this year's last years ago, and the women movement, which began in Afghanistan 100 or more than 100 years in 3 years, 103 years. Shah Amanullah Khan, or King of Afghanistan, traveled with his wife to European, and Queen Malika Suraya, or Queen Suraya, made him more determined and advanced and realized women's rights and freedom. And she, after this, returned from European. She opened the first school, girls' first school, and the first hospital for women. Women hospital called Masturat, the Arabic name, and raising of the age of marriage that time for girls was 18 years, and banning multiple marriage also. She also sent some girls to study in Turkey 100 years ago. She created Irshad Niswan, one first of magazine of Niswan of women in Afghanistan. Also the first girl elementary school called Ismat, also Arabic name. And most foreigner teacher teach and the student learn Arabic, English, foreign, German from first class. And this is the golden period of Afghanistan. This Malika Suraya and the Shah Amanullah Khan with his Malika Suraya and this family. And then, yeah, this is Afghanistan women in work. Okay.
You know my collection.
Yes. In Afghanistan, women during war in jihad. Afghanistan is located as a critical point in the region of the Middle East. There have that's why there have been many wars in Afghanistan. We have experienced wars in Afghanistan. I don't want to talk about the jihad or political things. I don't want judge. But Afghan women have always stood up with men, two men, Afghan men, and defend the country also, Afghan women. Afghan women in first term of Taliban in 1996 to 1999, I think. Yeah. This period is dark period for women, Afghan women, banning girls' education, no allowed the girls to education, all increase underage marriage and multiple marriage, and unemployed women and jobless become jobless, and women's increase the women's poverty, all women's and men poverty, and then increase violence against women and children, and violence, psychological or physical violence, abuse against women. Afghanistan, women in first term of Taliban this year. And then Afghanistan, Afghan women after Taliban. Transitional government of Afghan start 2001 after Bonn agreement. There was coming many opportunities for Afghan women, like female governor. We had female governor, we had female minister, we had female commissioners, we had female judge, we had female sporters, and all girls can go to school, all girls can go to outside to education. Like me, myself, I came to Malaysia to study in this university. And the women can participate to parliament. 25% of the parliament was women, and the women can be that time ambassador, and also the women can buy sell the house, the car, and the women can drive, and the economy of and financial of women can independence, and also women can be officer and another things. So you can see in the pictures. Yes, also we have exam concours exam, so big exam, and two girls this year and last year. The girls got the first number position in the high number, they got it high number of the exam, concours number. And then Afghan women in the second term of Taliban, or nowadays. Nowadays also you can see in the news, because in the past the Taliban was so strict. That is why when the people saw the Taliban coming, you saw in the news the people escaped to airport, ran away to airport, and you saw also in the pictures in the news the people all sitting in the wing of airplane. Even they died. A lot of people, 13 young men fall down of wing and from wing and died. That is why the people thought, the Taliban come and kill. That is why there's not good history from Taliban that time. Now also Taliban don't allow to girls to go to school. Now we have a lot of women in unemployed, jobless, become jobless, and women who were breadwinner of the families. This is so difficult, and increase women violence, and also increase underage marriage, girls underage marriage, and women rights and girls still face human rights abuse. And then finally, finally, I want to ask from Islamic countries. We have expect from Islamic countries to suggestion to Taliban to respect women's rights and women children, like before, like previous government. And 50% on Afghanistan population is women. If the Taliban want to continue their government, but must have women beside him, support and respect women in human rights, in women's rights, in children's rights. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sister Khadija. I think you've given us an impression, historical impression of the evolution of women's participation in public space before and after Taliban. We'll discuss further in Q&A. What are some of the stuff need to do to empower Afghan women, as an international community? All right. Finally, we have this final speaker. Azazul Haq Jami, postgraduate of political science, to talk about future of Afghanistan, what the Umma, what international community, what IIUM can do, to help Afghanistan. Please welcome him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تعالى: وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان وافعلوا الخير لعلكم تفلحون. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من نفس عن مؤمن كربة من كرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة ومن يسر على المعسر يسر الله عليه في الدنيا والآخرة والله في عون عبدي ما كان عبد في عون أخيه. رواه Muslim. Dear Datu Ahmad Azam, Special Advisor of Foreign Minister of Malaysia on Afghanistan, Honorable Prof. Burghud, Honorable Prof. Dawood, Respectable Prof. Farida, Dear Prof. Naki, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the International Institute of Muslim Unity and PGSS of ICOL for organizing this webinar about Afghanistan and for giving me chance to participate and share my opinions. It's worthy to deliver the special thanks to the government of Malaysia, especially to Honorable Datu Saifuddin, the Foreign Minister of Malaysia, for the appointing of Datu Ahmad Azam as the Special Advisor of Foreign Minister of Malaysia on Afghanistan. He is the right person for the job and he is extensively expert on Afghanistan's matter. Inshallah, under his leadership, the bilateral relationships between Afghanistan and Malaysia will reach to its full realization. Afghanistan is suffering from the war more than 40 years. It's the time now to start from zero and build and develop a stable Afghanistan. Malaysia and especially IIUM helped a lot the Afghan citizens since 1980s. For the first time, IIUM granted many scholarships for the Afghan students during the jihad period against Soviet Union that helped a lot, and most of those students got their PhDs and some of them became professors, which are working at the different universities and working as a high level of authorities in the government and also has their own companies. I have some suggestions to the government of Malaysia and IIUM administration regarding the future of Afghanistan. Please do the things in Afghanistan that most of people may or may not believe in doing of it. Those actions will be a great help to progress, stability, and establishment of Afghanistan, such as: number one, provide financial and logistical assistance to the new government in various fields, especially education, so that they can start educational centers as soon as possible. For example, they say they want to open girls' school after a series of changes in the school system, meaning that they don't want a co-educational system for boys and girls, and that male teachers do not teach for girls' upper classes, and that female teachers do not teach adult boys too. If Malaysia can help them in this regard, that is in the first step, train and prepare female teachers. Number 2, conducting conferences in Afghanistan and abroad in coordination with the government for Afghan and non-Afghan economists on improving Afghanistan's economic situation, in moving out of the current economic situation, in work on the progress and development of Afghanistan for the future, and also provide the necessary advice on improving the Islamic banking system. Number 3, economic and investment consulting in the field of mining, water management, construction of power, dams, and construction of factories. Number 4, trade boom between Malaysia and Afghanistan. Number 5, scholarships for Afghans, boys and girls, especially those who are keen to go back to Afghanistan to serve there after graduation. Number 6, delegations from various parts of Malaysia, especially education, economics, business, Islamic banking, and etc., should be seen to visit Afghanistan and closely monitoring and advise them. Number 7, a number of influential Afghan government officials and scholars should be invited to Malaysia to meet with Malaysian officials and scholars in order to visit Malaysia and know many new things from this Islamic and modern country. Number 8, urgent assistance to teachers throughout Afghanistan, as currently the poorest and most impoverished section of Afghanistan society is the teachers, because in the previous government, the teacher received the lowest salary, which was less than 500 ringgit. In addition, in most areas, teachers have not been paid for more than 5 months and are in dire financial straits. If Malaysia can pay all the remaining teacher salaries through the Ministry of Education of Afghanistan, you have helped the most, or at least help them with some cash, so that the teachers can attend schools and the education system will not be completely destroyed. Number 10, restoration, establishment, and development of schools throughout Afghanistan, especially in areas that have been deprived of schools for many years due to the war and where there is no proper school. Number 11, focus more on building schools, institutes, and women's universities throughout Afghanistan, especially in war-torn areas. Number 12, provided training for teachers, especially female teachers, throughout Afghanistan, especially in war-torn, in rural areas, in villages, in remote areas of Afghanistan. Number 13, development of religious schools under the Minister of Education of Afghanistan, and adding some curricula to their curriculum, such as teaching contemporary Arabic, computer, and English, and etc., and create libraries in it, and continue funding with those religious schools. Number 14, creating, equipping, and financing orphanages. Number 15, the assistance should be continuous, especially with the education sector in Afghanistan. Number 16, in dealing with Afghanistan, use scholars, political and social figures that during these many years of war were a kind of neutral and did not engage with any faction. At the end, I thank from core of my heart from the GPM and the government of Malaysia because of the humanitarian assist and help of Afghans in this critical time. I pray to Almighty Allah that gave Malaysia and the GPM a great reward and complete success. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Azazul. You know, you've given a long list of recommendation and suggestion, which I hope will be forwarded to Global Peace Malaysia for us to deliberate further. Now, I think we have finished all our speakers' deliberation. We will open to Q&A, and I would like to open the floor to our audience here. We've got a number of people from inside and outside IIUM to raise issues, comments, and questions. Please say who you are, where you're from, and then who you want your question addressed to.
Okay, may I start the ball rolling, Prof. Farida?
Yes, please go.
So I'm Malia Sulaiman. I'm an adjunct professor at the College of Economics and Management Sciences, IIUM. Now, I really enjoyed listening to all of you, and Mr. Abdul Hai, who gave us his perspective on the political situation, as well as Mr. Hafizul and Sister Khadija, yeah? And of course, my friend, Prof. Naki. Now, I think what you mentioned about helping Afghanistan, I was there for 2 weeks, 3 years ago. And what I can see is that we want to help. But right now, in fact, right now, I was in contact with my colleagues at Kabul University, and we want to train them, then training of trainers. Unfortunately, they said it's very difficult because of the internet connection. Perhaps one of the things that Afghanistan can do right now is to ensure that you have good connection, because then Malaysians can actually train your teachers. We need not go there at the moment, but we can do the training. So I feel that we have somebody from the Afghanistan embassy. Perhaps you should look into that, because I see a great potential when I was there, how the country can develop. In fact, all of us, we said that we pray that your country, there's no more war, because you will develop very fast, because Afghans are very hardworking, very kind, and you know, it touches our hearts. Yeah, but I must tell you that help, as far as Malaysia is concerned, we should have gone in much earlier, not now, but still not too late, because I see China having 2 buildings at Kabul University. So they have donated 2 buildings. So they were asking me what happens with the Malaysians or to the Muslim countries. So we are a little bit late, but now that there is every opportunity to help or extend our help, we hope we can do it as soon as possible. But please look at the internet connection so that we can start helping you now itself. We need not go there, and we can start the training. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all. I don't have questions, just suggestions. Yeah.
Yeah,
thank
but would Brother Nasir would like to respond to that? Is it possible to assist where connectivity is concerned? Brother Nasir? See here? Nasir Yusof. He's left.
He's from the embassy, Prof.
Yeah, he's from the embassy.
Yeah, I think.
I will make sure that the message of Prof. Maliha is conveyed to him, inshallah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Nakib.
You're most welcome, Prof.
We need that, Prof. Nakib.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, there's a lot of collaboration opportunities, you know,
Right.
like Telecom Malaysia coming in to provide all this telecommunication infrastructure and so on. China is interested because it has got vested interest.
Of course.
Trillions of business, you know, with Afghan. So that's why, you know, that's just their CSR. The things is nothing compared to what they get out of Afghanistan. Yes. Yeah, can we have more questions or issues raised, please?
May I pose a question, Prof?
Please go ahead.
My question is, why people are fighting each other and they are talking about politics. We are discussing how can we help the Afghani people, but more attention was talking about Taliban. Let us focus on the needy people, whether in education sector, health sector, investment sector, infrastructure. Why should not we positive? We should be positive towards our own people. You know, is it because you are a political scientist? Or how can I explain it? I don't know. I haven't heard much about the needs of the population. I didn't hear about how the Muslim world should do as states, as private sector, as NGOs. What is happening? Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So
Thank
that's
you.
one concern. Anybody can respond to that?
I would like to ask Prof. Whether that was a question or a comment.
No, it's a question. It's not a comment.
It's not a comment. I hope, I think we are not fighting here. We are raising concern about the people of Afghanistan, that their rights have to be respected, and that the people of Afghanistan, like the other people from the rest of the world, have the right to live in peace and security, and that they are not deprived of their homes, and do not just climb on a plane and run away. You know, we are trying to address the concern of the people. Now let me to ask you, Prof, there are millions of refugees, Afghan refugees, who are in need of shelter and protection. Are the Muslim world ready to help them? Now,
well, yes, you have to raise this issue.
That is the issue. Now, I'm raising to you, and you may raise it to other institutions so that they can help.
Yes, Prof. We organize this seminar so that we can participate and contribute in the creating awareness.
Right. Let me to tell you, Prof, there are some 3.5 million people who are internally displaced.
Very good.
Where the world, the Muslim world, willing to assist those people and to find food and shelter. Now, hospitals are running out of medicine. Other Muslim worlds are willing to assist the hospitals in Afghanistan. As one of our speaker mentioned earlier, that the government of the current government of Afghanistan would like to segregate schools, girls' schools from the boys' schools. In fact, we had that segregation before. The high school for girls were different from the high school for girls. I myself studied in a male high school, and my sisters studied in high schools meant for girls. I don't know why the Taliban in the 1996, when they come to power, they promised to allow girls to go to school, women to get education and have access to the right to work. But they ruled the country for 5 years, but they did not fulfill that promise. That is the concern. We are talking about half of the population of the country. And right now, as we speak, as Brother Khalid mentioned, I think there are some provinces in Afghanistan who open high schools for both males and females. That is beautiful news. In fact, I shared that one in my in my Facebook as a good news, but why just few provinces? Why not the whole country? Why not in Kabul? Why in Kabul, sadly to say that university students, of course, the sister of Brother Khanid is lucky enough to be in the private school, but all Afghans cannot afford to go to private schools.
Okay, thanks.
Now,
what I'm saying, Prof,
yeah.
Because if we allow you to continue, you will never end.
Yes.
What I'm saying that the topic of this webinar is the role of the Muslim world towards
exactly.
Afghanistan. But that you have the right to discuss whatever you want. I'm not saying that you should not discuss. But I'm talking about the seminar. This only is the webinar only.
Yes, Prof. I am telling you that we have refugees, Afghan refugees who are in need of protection. We have Afghan internally displaced people who are in need of protection. We have hospitals who are not enough medicine there. Can you go and help? Can you do something to help? Is this not the concern of the people of Afghanistan? What Muslim nations can do to maintain peace and security in Afghanistan? For 40 years there have been war in that country. Now let me to ask you, Prof, what have the Muslim world done towards that?
Prof. Muhammad Naki.
Yes.
I'm not responsible for state and everybody. I'm creating awareness.
Okay. I think, all right. I think I will have to butt in now as moderator. But, I want to go back to what you said earlier. This point of contention of separate schools for boys and girls. Why do you see that as a problem? Because, even during British rule, we've got girls for school, Methodist girls school, Methodist boys school. It's not a problem. My question is, why do you see that as a problem? As long as there are schools access for education, it doesn't matter if the girls or boys are segregated, but are you raising it as an issue because at girls' school, they will lack good teachers? Right. It's a problem because there are not enough teachers. Is this why you see it as a problem?
No, there is, Prof, we had the segregation before the Taliban came. We had high school for male students and we had high school for girl students. But when the Taliban came, they allowed the boys to go to school, but not the girls to attend their classes.
I see. Okay.
So that is the issue, Prof.
All right, because I took it as, you see it as a privilege if it's mixed.
No, not really. Not really.
All right.
Not really.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Yeah. Can I ask a question? Yes, who's asking? Prof. Rosnani wants to ask a question and I hear voice. Maybe I could not identify who you are. So Prof. Rosnani, can you go first?
Yeah, okay, inshallah. Thank you very much, Prof. Farida and all my colleagues there, the presenters. I really appreciate it. But actually, I am a bit confused because the Taliban came, then they were driven off, and then you have the government installed with the help of the states as well. And then, so in other words, like what Sister Khadijah mentioned, when the new government, after the first domination by Taliban, then they were driven off by the new government. Okay, so the new government, as the Khadijah mentioned, has installed so much things, like it was before, and then suddenly this year the Taliban came again. So in other words, the Taliban came in just for a short while. Why are we saying that things are, and people who are fearing the Taliban, they try to leave the country by any means that they can, okay? But I'm sure the institutions are still there, unless they are bombed. But as we notice, this time the takeover wasn't very bloody, wasn't very, like it was, and in fact, the American left a lot of weapons and you know, machines, whatever, for war, you know, to the Taliban government in terms of warfare. But I'm talking in terms of if the previous government that is supported by American and the world has done a good job, like Khadijah mentioned, so I'm sure that the institutions are still there. The only thing now is that people are fearing Taliban because of their previous experience. I think the most important thing is to get good leadership. We are talking about the outcomes of poor leadership. So the question now is, what is the nature of the leadership of the Taliban? We thought, as been written by even Americans, that there has been a change in the mentality of Taliban. If there is not, then we have to work on the mentality of the leaders. There has to be visits by, and I thought Yusuf Kala from Indonesia has visited the new Taliban government, and I think they also went to visit Indonesia. So I think we should allow most of these Taliban leaders, whom some of us said were not experienced, they are very simple-minded people, let them go and visit some countries, although now is, I know, in the pandemic, but they can do it now. Visit some countries and learn from these countries how to administer. And I'm very happy to know that Dato' Azam has been appointed as an advisor there. I really hope that he will be given the trust to give some advice. And in fact, I think it would be beneficial if some of these people make trips, like what you were saying, visit Malaysia or Indonesia, or few Turkey, good Muslim countries that has progressed, so that they can learn what governance and what is necessary. Because I believe these displaced people, these refugees, are the Taliban still chasing them? Because I know that the Taliban came and did not do much for this round. Okay, in terms of training, I don't think that's a problem. Like what Professor Malia mentioned, we can train online. We don't have to incur so much cost. I used to train about, I think it was 2 years back, a few people from the Minister of Education in Afghanistan. They came for training on curriculum, and I trained them for, I think, 2 full days. But I don't know what happened to them. So I'm Prof. Rusnani from the School of Education in IIUM. Okay, so I think about these schools, yeah, of course, if the previous past government had left the school intact financially, then probably they are financed. But they took away the money with them. I think those people who left Afghanistan, they also took the money with them. So that's the issue. That's how Afghanistan becomes so poor now, because all the money have been taken away when they leave the country. You can't blame the Taliban for that. So I think of course it needs rebuilding, but then we have to prioritize. That's why I said the leadership is very important to know what is a priority. So once you know the priority, then you can talk to government, visit the different Muslim government, and then you can talk for aids. I think Muslim government are still very, very rich. If you look at Saudi Arabia, if you look at Qatar, you look at some countries, they're still very rich. Okay, so I think prioritize the development plan, then visit the countries or invite those people to visit your country. I'm sure you can do diplomacy. I think Muslim can tolerate the Taliban more than the Western people can tolerate them, because sometimes these are all just they are what they call misperceptions. You can't believe the media 100% today. They blow up things out of proportion, and you can even bring back Malala to show that you really appreciate education for girls. You know, you can bring back Malala to be your ambassador for the girls. You know. So I think there's a lot of things to be done and can be done, okay? But the most important thing is the leadership. You must work on your leadership.
Prof. Farida, I fully agree with Prof. Rosnani. I fully agree with her. We have the necessary institution, and yet I don't know the reason why high school girls are not allowed to go to school. That is the concern.
That's why we need to change the leadership, the mind.
Exactly.
Okay. Who was the other person who tried to speak? Yeah, who's that?
Yeah, Dr. Fatmi. Dr.
Okay,
Fatmi.
yes, Dr. Fatmi, go ahead. Yeah, Dr. Fatmi, you want to ask?
Yes, I would like to ask a question. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Farida. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So I would like to introduce myself. My name is Fatmi Shehu. I do come from Albania. Recently, I'm here in. Yeah, please. I mean, I'm coming from Albania, and of course we have. Yes, I'd like to ask a question. Yeah, before I ask a question, I would like to introduce myself. I do come from Albania.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, what I'm trying to say here, Prof. Farida, after we have heard from the speakers who are from Afghanistan, so it is very surprised to hear that instead of being united, they are dividing themselves. You know. Now, since we are talking about the unity of the Muslim Umma, so they should be the first one to talk about the unity of the Afghanistani people. Instead of criticizing, they have to find a way how to provide a solution. So I'd like to ask the speakers what they have done being outside Afghanistan. Have they provided any assistance to the Afghanistani people? Have they provided any education support to the Afghanistani people? Then they can talk about criticizing others. You know, you have to start from what is your contribution. So that is our concern here. When we talk about the Muslim unity, so we Muslims would like to live according to Islam, not according to what others are trying to tell us to do, you know. So I am wondering that being Muslims, Afghanistani people, they have to support each other. So how can we support them when they do not support each other? So that is a question mark. So my concern here, I would like to hear from those who represent Afghanistani people here, what they have done for the Afghanistani people. Then we can reach the hand to help them, you know. And by the way, I would like to say, because that is we don't talk about the politics here. The politics is a different thing. But according to Islam, we have to support each other. You see that when you look at each other from others' perspective, then destruction will be there. So let us work on what is best for our community. Then pride should be done, or the support should be done by their own people. You see, that can be the bridge. But if they are criticizing, if they are separating, dividing, how can we trust them, you know? So that is our concern here. So we have to build the trust, and they have to have a trust in themselves, and they have to trust those that they have chosen to be the leaders. So now if the Afghanistan people themselves and those who presented tonight, so they have this kind of confusion, and they don't trust those who choose to be the leaders by chance or whatever they call it. So they have to be the first one to find a solution. Then we can come in. So I would like to hear from them, you know. Thank you very much.
May I, Prof. Farida,
yeah, okay. A quick one, yes.
Yeah, make a quick remark here. I don't know what makes this brother who say we the Afghans are disunited. We are very much united. We just raised our concern about half of our population in Afghanistan. That is the right of women to work and the right of girls to go to school and study, get education. Is that make us disunited? I think this brother, from where he understood that we are disunited, we want, by doing this, we are helping the Taliban government to bring some reform and to make sure that the fundamental rights of the citizens, male and female, are well protected. So that is our concern. We are not disunited. We are very much united with each other.
Okay.
And that is my response to that brother's comment.
Okay, sorry, Prof. Farida. Can I just interject? Prof. Naki, I think you've got a point there. However, what Dr. Fatmi wanted to know is what have you all
yes,
done?
exactly. What have you done?
What have you all done
Naki,
in
what
the
have you done to
situation in Afghanistan? I mean, are you talking to the leaders there? Because I know from my friend that in Kabul University, they have changed the rector. And according to them, that rector is not qualified at all. So, did you do anything to help?
Exactly, yeah.
Right, Prof. Thank you, Prof, for pointing that. I think we, the Afghans abroad, we are trying to do our best through webinars, through social media, promoting education, promoting unity, promoting peace and stability in the country, but we cannot go beyond that. That is our hands are tied up. So we can do that much. But of course, in Afghanistan, I think about the new rector of Kabul University, people did demonstrate, voice out, and complain to the Ministry of Higher Education. Why should such a person be appointed as the rector of the university? But of course, we are doing our best. Our brother Fatmir point, I think that we have to, contribute in monetary form or some other forms. We are doing to the best of our ability, at least to those whom we know in that particular part of the world to contribute. But of course, you cannot expect us beyond that, right? We are individuals, not institutions or government or whatever. I hope I have responded.
Yeah. All right. Others, please. Anybody would like to respond to that? But the issue faced by Afghan is not specifically Afghan. Even in Malaysia, we have the same issue, right? Like, the wrong people got appointed as DC and so on. We could have asked the same question, what are we doing about it? But I think that's beside the point. The next issue to be raised is, can I have raise of hand?
Yes, Prof. Farida, I want to add something. Actually, I don't want to talk about the political, but I want to say Afghan war is not civil war. Afghan war is actually world power war in Afghanistan. We are so united. We don't have any problem. We have multicultural in Afghanistan. We are multi-races, multi-religious religions, but we don't have any problem. That is this war, an imposed war on us. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So how do you think that women can play a role, Khadija?
Sorry, what?
How do you think women can play a role in this nation building?
Yes, Prof. The women are all shocked, all want to run away. I have many friends who once escaped from Afghanistan to another country because they thinking Taliban didn't allow to education or work. I have a lot of friends, breadwinner. They are so worried about this situation. You know that previous government supported by World Banking, and then after Taliban coming, all the financial of a government blocked by American. But now, Afghanistan new government don't have any financial or any money to pay to payment of the teachers or doctors or all the people have a financial problem. But the Islamic, I want to ask the Islamic countries like the Prof, the another sister Prof said, Islamic country is so rich, can help like Qatar, like Saudi, can help financial turning, and can invite that leaders of Taliban to turning to like Malaysia, like Indonesia. They are sold. They can copy of this rule to Afghanistan, because Malaysia is Islamic country, and Indonesia and Qatar and all, we have more than 50 Islamic country, all at one stage. But yes, that's all. I don't have any idea.
But may I ask, has the present Taliban government, okay, or Afghanistan government, approached this country? That's my question, because I think the Malaysian Minister of Education of Foreign Affairs, okay, he said Malaysia is supportive, but Malaysia also has problem. So what I mean, if they want to visit this country, to request.
Oh, sorry, Prof. Your sound is not clear for me.
Yeah, somebody all must switch their phone, because if everyone switches microphone, that's why we hear echoes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that have Afghanistan government send delegation to the Muslim countries to explain the situation. Because I know if they read the papers, like what you say, I also know that you don't have money. Okay? So have they
I think, Prof, the foreign minister of the current government is very active in contacting other Muslim countries. The foreign minister of the Taliban went to Turkey, went to Uzbekistan, and made the foreign ministry of other countries as well, seeking assistance for them to build the institution in the country. I think they are doing to their best level, yes.
Brother Nasir, do you want to respond to that? How much the embassy is also doing its role, meeting other ambassadors to talk about issues in Afghanistan and how they can help? What's your role as Afghan embassy in Malaysia, for example? How much work have you done to convince others to help Afghan?
Yeah, actually, as you know, we are facing with the new regime come to the power in Afghanistan. But behind of this issue is various political and social reasons. We are not going to come in the political issues. It is natural that every regime has its own opponents and supporters. The type of regime is not important to us here. As an Afghan representative here in Malaysia, we are just looking for our Afghan situation at the moment. What is most important is the situation of the Muslim people of Afghanistan as a part of the Islamic world, which is the only country that has 99% Muslims. And what is the role of the Islamic Umma towards the people of Afghanistan? This is our duty to communicate with the Umma in the world. Here also in Afghanistan embassy, actually as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia allowed us to continue our support and service to the Afghanistan citizens who are living in Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, we communicate with many organizations and charities to help our people in Malaysia first of all, and also we communicate with Datu Ahmad Azam Abdurrahman, the special envoy of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia. As you know, we issue visa, special visa to their groups to go to Afghanistan and support the needed people of Afghan in many provinces like the Nangarhar and Kabul and Herat and many other of the provinces. At the moment, our people in Afghanistan, they need security and they need to improve their economy. But inshallah, we hope that the government of the new government of the Taliban, they listen to the international community. They should follow up their international regulation in the world. Inshallah, we hope to solve the problem, but we need more time to see can the Taliban solve the problem or not. We must be patient. This is my point.
Right. Can you explain your position at Embassy of Afghanistan? You are not representing the Taliban government.
At the moment, actually, we are not representing the Taliban government, of course, because the Taliban government is still not recognized by the international community, even the government of the Malaysia. But we are here we are represent the Afghanistan only. We are not represent of the Taliban government or the previous regime, the Ashraf Ghani government. We are just here to support and serve to give service to our Afghanistan people. But the government of Malaysia allowed us to continue our service to the people.
Okay.
So I guess the best move at the moment is what Dato' Azam is doing, that is through NGOs and civil societies then.
Yes.
And we should consider first your needs for food and security. That's the most basic needs, I think. So I think that's what we should focus. Education can come a little bit later. Food is the most important thing.
Of course, also because the winter is on the way. We should be careful about our people.
So I think for me, GPM, we are doing the right thing. We should be supporting and promoting much more to the Malaysian community to support them in terms of food aids and medical aids and so on. Inshallah. That's good.
Now, the other issue is because of international sanction is still there. All these donor funds are being frozen. Since Fahmi is here, maybe Fahmi, can you respond? Because we are trying to help fund some female students to continue their education in Afghan university. But there is some problem trying to send money across. So, we're talking about how can we help, how can the international, the system, the international banking system is so much control that even though we want to offer help, we can't. So perhaps, Fahmi, if you could share how JPM does their work across borders. How do you overcome all these restrictions placed by powers that be who control finance and so on?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. If you can hear me, because currently I'm on my way from Kuala Lumpur to Terengganu.
Yeah, we can.
So basically, okay. Basically, I think just to give some elaboration, the initiative to kick off the initial stage to have a fact-finding mission is because of our so-called remembrance since 2001. That was the initial objective to forming Global Peace Mission. This will be our 20 years of anniversary of Global Peace Mission Malaysia. So that's why I think our discussion here, I think we do not really expect that the new government will follow up by the Taliban, but we understand that the international community, the fact that the Taliban is currently the de facto government in Afghanistan nowadays, and the best approach is for us to collaborate with them instead of having some sort of isolation. So that is why I think currently almost 1 month since we kick off the our initial visit. For the past 1 month, I think there are many urgency and many reports that we receive from our local and our counterpart. I think there are many things that we need to do. But roughly, I would say that the best thing that maybe we can have to coordinate the initiative for the Malaysian civil society as well as the Malaysian public, I mean, as a general. Because we understand that there are many requests currently to enter Kabul, but due to many circumstances, I think not easy for us to travel directly. I think they are also facing the difficulties also to get access, like flight ticket and whatnot. But above all, we believe that now currently the team is trying to coordinate to establish a Malaysian Humanitarian Center. Even as a government, Malaysia do not, with the rest of the other country, still do not recognize Taliban as yet. But our presence representing the civil society, I think is good to show that we are doing something. Our presence is there. We need to understand that the situation is, we need to do whatever that we can done there. The role that we can play by the Malaysian NGO, especially as the track to diplomacy for Malaysia. I mean, as our Global Peace Mission directly involved on the ground, and we have the first-hand information on the current situation there. I think this most viable option for Malaysia for now, before the Malaysian government establish any formal relationship, followed by other friendly countries. I think that's why, Dr. Ahmad Azam present in Turkey, apart from Syrian mission, he is also trying his best to negotiate and trying to bring other Muslim brothers, friendly brothers, to be part of this initiative. I think Turkey, Qatar, Pakistan, maybe later followed by Iran or other country, I think is rightly approach that maybe we can done. I think that will be my intention and my early comment on this issue, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Fahmi. We'll be in touch because we have other things also to collaborate with you.
Prof. Farida, may I ask Fahmi? Fahmi, you said that you have gone into Afghanistan. I'm just wondering whether there is a coordination of all the NGOs from Malaysia that are going into Afghanistan. Because I see many NGOs, but is there a coordinator coordinating all this help? Because we do not want to be like Cambodia. We have so many Muslim organizations going in. Sometimes we do not know whether they are going to the same people. You know, the donations, are they going to the same people? If they are coordinated, I think the whole country will be able, we will be able to help all the Muslims in that country. So the same with Global Peace Malaysia. Are you having a coordinator coordinating all this, or the government is doing it, the government of Malaysia? That's my question, Fahmi.
Okay, Prof Malia, I think you still remember me, of course.
Of course, Fahmi, I remember. I always remember you, Fahmi.
Thank you, Prof. I just listened to your presentation just now. You mentioned that you are doing some work to assist academicians and intellectuals there in Kabul. Maybe perhaps later we can do some, approach on this matter specifically. With regard to the coordination, Alhamdulillah, last week we managed to what we call together the relevant NGOs, interested NGO who are, of course, they are interested to help and assist something with regard to Afghanistan. So that's why I think the mandate given to Dato' Ahmad Azam with regard to this matter is basically, I think, within two. First is people to people. Secondly, on the humanitarian effort that Malaysia can, do. That's why I think Dato' Ahmad Azam did mention on humanitarian diplomacy with regard to this matter. So I think it's good to have this initial meeting earlier. I think the meeting was successfully attended by many, I would say, around 26 different NGOs on 13th of October. So from there, we given somehow our perspective and our earlier report on the ground. We actually intended to have a live session with our brothers in Kabul, but unfortunately, I think due to the reason given earlier by, I think, Prof. Rosnani, I think, on the internet. Although Prof. Mali, I think you did mention on this issue just now about the internet connectivity. That's the reason why we cannot have our team on the ground to have more discussion and more follow-up with this. So basically, inshallah, we try to have that engagement with other related NGO who are interested to be part, because we are already there now. I think it's not easy to have access to enter Kabul, but alhamdulillah, with the collaboration and commitment with the current interim government, with Foreign Minister, I think yesterday they met with Dr. Abdullah Hikmatia, and the rest, I think, is an indicator that the current de facto leader, as well as many other parties who are in government or whether in Afghanistan, they acknowledge our presence. And in fact, I think if they are outskirts of Kabul, they managed to get a security clearance and escort by Taliban to do for our works. And lastly, I think our initial meeting to discuss on if we can have a solid or solidarity in terms of initiate a Malaysia Humanitarian Center. From that center, I think we can have like 4 or 5 store building completed with many other things that maybe we can to utilize that areas for the training ground, for the technical education help, whatnot. I think from there we can initiate that, and the place also one of the coordination place. If anything, if any mission, if any NGOs who like to contribute, their program activity in Kabul or in other area in Afghanistan, they must check in there first so that we can coordinate. You can go, because I think the area is very broad. We cannot do it alone, but with many commitment. I think earlier in our establishment during 2001, that was a group of NGO forming Global Peace Mission. It's not a one-man show program activity. So hopefully, after 20 years, we trying to get back that momentum to serve our Afghanistan brothers. I think for the past 20 years, I think they will be left behind, because there nobody actually talking about this, but we understand the sensitivity, perhaps the sentiment to create a sympathy, understanding from the public, like generally, to the Malaysian generally, because I think they do not understand the real situation, but what they discuss more towards Taliban, more towards, the issue that is basically more towards political or, other issue not related to humanitarian.
Okay, thank you.
So Iman will be working with GPM, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Iman. For me, why I asked about coordination is that I thought if there's proper planning, you can help more. Because if Iman does something and GPM does something and we are not aware of what the other is doing, then there's no proper planning. So the help may not be as effective as if there is a coordination.
Earlier in our discussion, Alhamdulillah, I think I managed to talk with Professor Datuk Sri Zariha Kamaruddin. In our initial meeting with ASIN, the coalition of Muslim NGO in Malaysia, and we trying also actually, because in Malaysia particularly, we understand that we have that model. For instance, I feel you said about women empowerment. So we had the initial discussion with Datuk Sri Wan Azizah. Wan Azizah is a former Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia. Women representing Muslim do not have any issue, controversy issue with him. So if we can bring him on board together with the rest of maybe Iman, lecturer, professor, and the rest of women figures, on this particular issue, I think that will be a great initiative that we can start off. So this is one of the example. I think there are many issues. I think if we can do that, inshallah, I think probably this will be a new so-called Afghanistan that we can, on behalf of Malaysia, can do something on this matter.
Inshallah.
Okay. All right. I think we're almost coming to the end of our session. I would like to, yeah?
Can I add some words?
Yeah, okay. Final one.
First of all, I want to say Salamat Berjalan to Brother Fahmi to Terengganu. After that, actually, if we see Taliban didn't say that we banned the universities or schools at all. See, the first school was opened in Mazar-i-Sharif, then in other provinces. They said, the spokesperson of Taliban, Zabiullah Mujahid, he said that we have to gather and make a big conference in Afghanistan to get fatwa from the ulama about the girls, even the Taliban's daughters, even the Taliban children, they are studied. They are very well even they know very well English. So I hope they have to respect the woman's right, human's right, freedom of speech, and others. Another thing, day by day, we have to be positive. Everything is day by day will be changed. As I give example in the world, if we see Saudi Arabia, until some years back, the woman cannot drive. But slowly, everything become good. Everything become good. And I hope that Malaysia, as Brother Fahmi said, that they are in, and they are doing very well inside Afghanistan. And I hope there will be, as I mentioned, we are now we have to start from zero. We have to start from zero because the country suffered a lot from the war. Even during the Republic of Afghanistan, previous government, and there was no the girls not joining in school, especially in the south, a lot. But you see, we have SPM exam, which is called Concord exam, the last exam for the 12th grades. Last year and this year, there was the first position got it by sisters. The last year was Shamsia, and this year was Silgay. So it means the sisters are very brave and they are willing to learn a lot. Even they were ministers, even they were MPs, a lot. They were working a lot in the country. And I hope Malaysia, hopefully, to collaborate with them, especially with the higher education of Afghanistan, to create and provide training for the sisters, women in Afghanistan.
Okay. Thank you so much. We really have to wrap up. It's almost 11 o'clock. I wish to thank everybody, both audience and speakers, for such very interesting discussion. And I think we have identified some of the areas that we could work on, follow up with various NGOs, Global Peace and so on. But I think it's also important to rope in Afghans themselves. Malaysia cannot go in and say, we know what to do, we know what you want. But I think there is also a need to train local NGOs so that we teach them how to run or how to be independent so that they can run their own country. Right, with that, I think I would like to end the session with Farah and Surawal. Or before I end, I think that is the job of the the director, I would like to pass this back to the MC. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.
At the end of this webinar, I am very thankful to Prof. Farida for her great leadership in moderating this seminar. And thanks for all the speakers who responded positively to all of us. When we invited them, they all came along and participate. Although I have some reservation about some of them who did not pay more attention to the topic of the seminar. But I am really happy about the ending of this webinar, because I think by the end we achieved the objective of this seminar. Thanks to particularly the Malaysians who talked directly and contributed to creating awareness about the needs and practical actions. When I asked Brother Fahmi to join us, and he promptly agreed to be a co-organizer, I would like to thank him and thank Dato for also joining us. Also, he is outside in his mission. Also, I should thank Prof. Rudnani, Prof. Malia, and also everybody. But I am really thankful and appreciate the contribution of the Malaysian professors and participants in the discussion, because they gave us the hope, not in terms of theory, but in terms of action. May Allah help us all to help each other and to get united. Jazakumullahu khairan. And I leave the concluding remark to Dr. Fatmir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Dawood, for giving me this opportunity to end up this forum. So on behalf of IMO, being the Deputy Director of IMO, with working with Prof. Dawood, so Alhamdulillah, what I have seen that we have managed to achieve the aim of this forum. At least we know the concerns of the people of Afghanistan. And at the same time, we have identified what is needed by the people of Afghanistan through the help of especially the Malaysian peaceful organizations that are there. They are working with the people. They know the needs of the people. So through other, I mean, that is what we can do for the time being. Through this platform, we can maybe gather the information, the data from especially the speakers that we had today, regardless of the direction and perhaps agreement and disagreement, but there is a way forward that we can find a way how to reconcile with one another. And looking at it from a very Islamic perspective, being Muslims, and as Allah says in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna al-mu'minuna ikhwatun. So indeed, the believers are brothers. So that would be our concept. So what we have done so far, I would like to thank, all those who contributed to this webinar, and being the first that is organized by IMO. So we believe that this will continue to provide the best that we can for the Muslims all over the world, not only just the Afghanistani people. And before we end, I would like all of you to open the camera. We'd like to have a group photo before we end, please. Yeah, please, others, can you show yourselves?
Are you going to count 1, 2, 3?
You can't, Sister Aziza.
Yes, my 1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let us close by reciting Surah Al-Nas and Tasbih Kafara. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.